She thought her best years were behind her, until the night she heard a frequency that changed everything. It wasn't a cream, a serum, or a doctor's promise. It was something softer, quieter, older than any science. A sound that seemed to speak directly to her cells, reminding them of a rhythm they had once known. That night, as the world around her slept, something inside her began to awaken. The air in her room felt different, almost sacred, as if time itself had slowed to listen. Her body, tired from years of trying and hoping, began to feel light, warm, alive. She didn't understand how, but her heart whispered that she was remembering something ancient, the natural intelligence of her own beauty. She had spent years chasing youth, applying, fixing, correcting, covering. But youth was never lost. It had been waiting beneath the noise, beneath the hurry, beneath the belief that she had to do something extraordinary to deserve it. Tonight, she realized, it was never about adding more. It was about listening. What if her skin could listen? What if her body could remember the softness of its beginning? What if beauty was not something to rebuild, but something to reawaken? The sound pulsed through the quiet like a secret. It wasn't loud, yet every cell seemed to hear it. Her breath slowed, her shoulders released, and for the first time in years, she felt safe inside her own body. This was not a fight against time. It was a reunion with it. The rhythm of the frequency matched her heartbeat, and together they danced in silence. She began to feel warmth rising from deep within her, not the heat of effort, but the glow of remembering. She saw in her mind flashes of women before her. Her mother, her grandmother, women from distant lands who knew how to age without fear. In Egyptian nights they would leave bowls of oil beneath the moon, believing the light would bless their reflection. In Japan, they would whisper affirmations into the silence before dawn, believing words could sculpt the face. In Africa, they would hum low vibrations into their chest, letting the sound travel through the skin like medicine. Across every culture, beauty was not a product. It was a practice of presence, and somehow tonight she had found her way back to that truth. The sound continued, steady, like the ocean beneath her heartbeat. She realized how often she had lived disconnected from herself, chasing something outside when everything she needed was waiting inside. Her mind softened, her breath deepened, and she began to feel an almost magnetic pull toward stillness. It was as if her body understood what to do once her thoughts got out of the way. Her skin tingled lightly, almost as though it was breathing in. She imagined each pore releasing the memory of stress, of comparison, of exhaustion. Every wrinkle was not a flaw, but a story of strength written in flesh. And as she surrendered to the sound, she felt something invisible yet undeniable. Her frequency was changing. She had never realized how much her thoughts shaped her skin. Every doubt, every worry, every moment of self-criticism had created tension she didn't even notice. But now, under this subtle harmony, she could feel that tension dissolve. It was like her face was learning to smile again without effort. She saw herself floating in a golden field of light, not an image but a sensation. She felt beauty not as appearance but as vibration. Her skin seemed to glow from the inside, as if responding to her surrender. Even experts couldn't explain it, but when women tried it, something magical happened. Because it wasn't the sound alone that transformed them, it was the belief that beauty was alive, listening, intelligent. She began to imagine her skin as a garden. Every cell was a seed, waiting for light. And her thoughts were that light. For years she had fed the soil with worry, thinking it was care. But tonight she offered peace instead. The result was instant, not in the mirror, but in her heart. She remembered the feeling of looking at herself with love, not judgment. It was almost unbearable, that much tenderness. Her breath deepened again, slower, softer. She placed a hand on her chest and felt the rhythm align. Her heartbeat, the sound, the silence, all in perfect harmony. She realized that her body was not aging against her. It was protecting her, adapting, evolving. It was always trying to help her, even when she spoke against it. Tears formed but didn't fall. They simply shimmered, suspended in gratitude, because she finally understood. Youth was never something to regain. It was something to remember. This realization spread through her body like light through water. Her face relaxed completely, her jaw unknotted, her lips softened into a natural smile. The muscles beneath her skin, often held in invisible tension, began to melt. Her circulation deepened. Her cells began to vibrate more freely. Science could call it oxygenation, but she knew it was something beyond that, an energetic renewal that began with forgiveness. She whispered inwardly, "I forgive my body for carrying so much. I forgive my reflection for not looking how I wanted. I forgive myself for forgetting how divine it feels to be alive." The room around her felt wider, as if her energy was expanding. The sound, that soft, golden frequency, continued to wrap her in warmth. She felt herself drift between waking and dreaming, but never lost awareness. It was a lucid surrender, the kind that only happens when the mind stops trying to control. Her subconscious opened like a flower, drinking the melody. The sound seemed to speak in language older than words, reminding her that beauty is simply harmony between the body and the soul. The wrinkles, the lines, the texture, all part of the song. She saw herself not as broken, but as beautifully composed. Every mark was a note, every curve a rhythm, every breath a chord. The more she listened, the more radiant she felt. It wasn't illusion, it was alignment. And alignment always shines through the skin. She remembered ancient stories of women who would place their palms on water before sleeping, believing that peace in the heart would reflect as clarity on the surface. She smiled because now she understood. Water, skin, thought. They all mirror vibration. The higher the peace, the brighter the glow. She breathed deeply again, letting gratitude fill her lungs. She thought of everything her body had done for her, the heart that never stopped, the skin that protected her, the eyes that had seen so much beauty and pain. She felt humbled by her own design. What if beauty was not youth itself, but the gratitude for still being alive? That question lingered, sweet and powerful. She didn't need to chase perfection anymore. She only needed to tune herself to love. Because love was the true frequency of youth. And that night she finally began to hum along. The night deepened, but instead of growing darker, it grew softer. The silence became her companion, cradling her thoughts as they untangled from years of resistance. She felt the weight of the day slide off her shoulders like silk slipping from skin. Each second carried her deeper into stillness, into the part of her where time had no meaning. She could sense that something extraordinary was happening, not a miracle from outside, but a remembering from within. For so long she had looked for renewal in bottles and promises. Yet the real transformation began when she simply listened. The frequency continued, pulsing like a slow heartbeat beneath the surface of sleep. It wasn't just sound, it was intention. It whispered to her cells in the language they had always understood. Rhythm, harmony, vibration. She could feel her face releasing memories stored in muscle, the frown she held through years of worry, the tightness around her mouth from unspoken emotions, the subtle clench that had become invisible over time. All of it was melting now, dissolved by a single truth. Beauty was not created through effort, but through allowance. When she stopped trying to hold it all together, life flowed back into her. The blood beneath her skin began to move differently, as if drawn to light. The temperature of her body shifted slightly, glowing with warmth from her heart outward. She had read about circulation, collagen, hydration, all the scientific names, but what she felt now had no name. It was the moment life remembered itself, the moment a woman stopped fighting and started feeling. She realized that for decades she had spoken to herself in ways she would never speak to someone she loved. Her inner voice had been sharp, critical, impatient. She had begged her reflection for youth. Without realizing, youth cannot be begged. It can only be invited, and invitation begins with kindness. So she began to speak differently, softly, as the frequency continued to hum beneath her breath. You are safe now. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to glow again. Her nervous system heard it first. The tight thread of stress loosened inside her chest. The mind that always measured, compared, planned, began to dissolve into quiet. There was no past or future here, only the gentle vibration of now. And in this now, her body began to bloom. It was not visible yet, but she could feel it. The cells inside her cheeks felt lighter, her jaw softer, her heart stronger. She had the strange sensation of growing younger from the inside out. It wasn't fantasy, it was energy returning to balance. Because what ages the body fastest is not time. It's the constant contraction of fear. Tonight, fear had no voice. Only peace did. She wondered how many women around the world might be lying in their beds feeling the same gentle awakening. Women who had spent years feeling invisible, forgotten too late. Women who carried generations of exhaustion in their blood, yet still longed to be free. Perhaps this frequency was more than sound. Perhaps it was a call to remember the original rhythm of womanhood, softness as strength, stillness as creation, rest as renewal. She could feel her ancestors breathing through her, as if saying welcome home. In that moment, her breath became the bridge between all women, ancient and modern, connected through the quiet mystery of renewal. Even scientists now whispered about the healing power of sound, the way vibration could reorganize water molecules, the way intention could alter cellular behavior. But she didn't need proof. She could feel it. The same intelligence that turns a seed into a tree was working inside her, turning rest into rebirth. The beauty industry had told her that youth fades, that glow diminishes, that lines must be erased. But she was beginning to see that lines were sacred. They were the map of where love had traveled across her face. And as she accepted them, something paradoxical happened. Her skin softened. Her features seemed to open. Her light grew. Because what you love, you heal. The frequency pulsed again, subtle but alive, as if approving of her realization. She could almost hear it say, "Keep going, you are remembering." Her awareness expanded beyond her body, into the field around her. She felt the air respond to her presence. Every molecule seemed to shimmer with her exhale. The entire room became a temple, not made of walls or stone, but made of breath and intention. This was the true beauty ritual. Not something to perform, but something to become. She began to sense her energy field glowing brighter, like a gentle halo of warmth expanding from her heart. It felt like silk and sunlight intertwined. The old stiffness that once made her body feel heavy was gone. She felt fluid again, feminine in the most sacred sense, receptive, flowing, alive. The years she had feared losing were not gone. They were folded inside her, transformed into wisdom. The beauty of 20 was not meant to stay forever. It was meant to evolve into the radiance of 40, the grace of 50, the serenity of 60. Every phase had its frequency, and tonight she was aligning with the one that spoke of timelessness. The frequency was not erasing time, it was harmonizing with it. Because true youth is not in resisting age, it's in vibrating higher than fear. She could feel the edges of her thoughts fade into golden light. Each breath drew her deeper into surrender. She thought of the moon, ancient and unchanging, yet always renewing its face. Even in darkness it never disappears, it only prepares to shine again. And so she too was learning the rhythm of renewal, sometimes dimming, sometimes glowing, but always returning. The more she understood this, the more peace settled in her skin. Her hands felt warm against her face. She could feel the faint pulse of life beneath her fingertips, the same pulse that had been there since her first breath. It was the original frequency, the one every woman carries, the one that never dies. She let it guide her into deeper rest. The sound in the room was barely audible now, yet it seemed to echo from inside her bones. She was not listening to it, she was becoming it. Her consciousness floated effortlessly between worlds, between the physical and the unseen. Somewhere beyond language, her spirit whispered, "I am whole. I am light. I am remembered." And with each repetition, the truth carved itself into her cells. When she finally drifted toward sleep, it wasn't an escape, it was a return. Because sleep, she now understood, is not the absence of life. It's the time when life rebuilds itself in silence. As her mind rested, her body continued to glow. The night wrapped her like a cocoon, and the woman she would wake up as was already forming. She didn't need to hope anymore. She was already becoming. Somewhere between dream and awareness, she felt the night whisper her name, not through sound but through sensation. It was as if every breath the earth exhaled moved gently through her, brushing her skin with warmth. Her body, once a battlefield of expectations, had become a sanctuary. She could feel it, a silent intelligence moving beneath her surface, reorganizing her from the inside out. Her cells, bathed in calm, began to hum at a frequency that felt both ancient and new. It was the frequency of life remembering its perfection, and in that remembrance, something miraculous began. She started to fall in love with existing again. There was no need to think, to analyze, to compare. Everything she needed was already happening in silence. The air in her lungs carried more than oxygen. It carried intention. The pulse in her wrist was not just circulation, it was music. Every system of her body was awakening to the rhythm of harmony. She thought of how many nights she had gone to sleep worrying, about appearance, about purpose, about time slipping away. Each worry had been a small chain, linking her to fatigue. But tonight, those chains were dissolving in the warmth of awareness. What if worry had been her only aging agent all along? What if, beneath the stress, her body had always been ready to glow? She felt an almost childlike sense of wonder rising in her chest. For years she had seen aging as decline, but now she saw it as unfolding. The face she carried was not something to fix, it was something to read. Every faint line was a poem, every mark a memory, every glow a whisper of life continuing. She had tried so hard to become beautiful, and now she understood she already was. Because beauty is not an achievement, it's a frequency. It's not measured by perfection, but by resonance, how much love one allows to flow through their being. The more love, the higher the vibration. The higher the vibration, the more radiant the skin. It was not philosophy, it was truth felt through the body. The frequency continued beneath her consciousness, weaving itself into her breath. Each exhale let go of another decade of tension. Each inhale brought light deeper into her chest. Her heart, once guarded by years of disappointment, opened quietly. It didn't burst, it bloomed. There was a peace in not chasing anything, in simply existing as softness. Her mind wandered to a memory of water, the way ripples spread when touched gently. That, she realized, is how the feminine frequency works, not by force, but by resonance. You do not push beauty into existence, you allow it to echo through you. She wondered why no one had told her this when she was younger, maybe because no one had taught them either. But tonight, she knew it in her bones. This was the forgotten wisdom of women, the science of softness, the alchemy of rest. She had read about the way plants open under moonlight, the way oceans respond to lunar cycles. Now she felt it within her. Her body was an ocean, her breath the tide, her thoughts the moon. When they aligned, everything shimmered. She sensed her nervous system resetting, the slow, natural rhythm returning after years of hurry. Her heartbeat was calm, her temperature steady, her mind quiet. Every layer of stress seemed to slide away, leaving only light. It was as if she had entered the original blueprint of her body, the one untouched by fear or judgment. She imagined her cells smiling, remembering their design. She could see them glowing in her imagination. Tiny suns pulsing in harmony, and in that glow she could feel the story of her life transforming. What once felt like loss now felt like metamorphosis. She was not fading, she was refining. She was not losing time, she was integrating it. Because time was never her enemy. It was her sculptor. Every day that passed had been shaping her into this version of herself, luminous, wise, unshakably calm. The frequency beneath her breath continued to guide her deeper. She could feel it move through her spine like golden water. It wasn't just sound, it was memory. Memory of what it meant to be fully alive, fully feminine, fully divine. Her spirit expanded beyond her name, beyond her story, into something vast and serene. She felt connected to every woman who had ever stood before a mirror and whispered a silent prayer for youth. She wanted to reach out to them through time to say, You are already everything you're trying to become. She could feel tears forming again, but this time they were not from pain. They were from relief. The pressure to be more, to do more, to appear more, was gone. She could finally rest in being. The energy in her body began to shift again, this time lighter, faster. It was like her cells were celebrating. There was movement without motion, radiance without effort. She imagined her reflection not as a surface, but as a vibration, one that now carried warmth and peace. Even in the darkness of the room, she could sense her glow. It wasn't vanity, it was evidence of harmony. The beauty that had once seemed dependent on youth was, in truth, dependent on alignment, and alignment was available in every breath. She began to repeat inwardly, like a lullaby, "I am safe, I am soft, I am light." Each repetition deepened the frequency. It felt like each word rewrote a story in her DNA, not the story of aging, but the story of awakening. Her body was not betraying her, it was listening. Every thought, every belief, every breath was a message it translated into chemistry, and now those messages were pure love. She understood now why some women seemed to glow effortlessly. It wasn't genetics, it was peace. Peace is the ultimate beauty treatment because it allows the body to do what it was designed to do, renew. She wondered if perhaps this was the real feminine secret, not found in formulas but in frequency. A simple practice of listening to the body's ancient wisdom and letting it lead. The sound continued, softer than ever, yet everywhere. It seemed to come from the walls, the sky, her heartbeat. She was surrounded and filled by it. She could feel it touch every cell with light, as if whispering, "You are infinite. You are timeless. You are loved." Her breath slowed again, matching the rhythm of the earth. She could feel the planet spinning gently beneath her, carrying her effortlessly through the night. All she had to do was rest. The world was moving for her. She realized that maybe true rejuvenation was not about control but surrender, not about fighting age but dancing with it. She smiled again, half asleep, fully alive. Because in that moment she knew she was the frequency. The air around her became almost golden, though her eyes were closed. It wasn't light from the outside, it was illumination from within. Every breath felt sacred now, every second an act of grace. She could feel the rhythm of her heartbeat, harmonizing with the pulse of the planet, as if the entire universe had slowed to match her calm. The sound that had guided her here still resonated softly, not as a melody but as a vibration of truth. She could no longer tell where it ended and where she began. There was no separation between her body and the energy surrounding it. The frequency of youth was no longer something she was listening to, it was something she was becoming. And in that union she felt ageless. Her mind drifted into the memory of her first sunrise, not one she could recall visually, but one her soul seemed to remember. The moment when light first touched her skin as a child, and her cells learned joy. That same light was returning now, only softer, deeper, wiser. She felt her energy reorganizing like constellations, shifting into new alignment. Every heartbeat sent a quiet wave of warmth to her skin, as if her blood had become golden liquid. The more she surrendered, the more she glowed. It was effortless, almost mystical. She remembered reading once that when water is blessed, its molecules form perfect patterns. Perhaps the same was true of human beings. When a woman blesses herself with love, her cells form harmony. Tonight, she was becoming that harmony. Her face relaxed into serenity, her breath steady and deep. There was no thought, no effort, only the soft hum of being alive. Somewhere within her, the old narratives of age, of loss, of decay were fading. They didn't belong here anymore. She had outgrown them. Like old garments, they simply fell away, replaced by something infinitely lighter. The story of her body was no longer about resistance. It was about remembrance. She remembered the way her skin once felt after laughter, the warmth that lingered on her cheeks after kindness, the glow that came from joy, not youth. It was still there. Joy had never aged. It had only been covered by worry. The frequency was clearing that worry now, wave by wave. She realized that beauty was never meant to be permanent in form. It was meant to be continuous in feeling. The feeling of being alive, soft, connected, open. That feeling alone was enough to make her glow. Her awareness expanded beyond herself. She began to sense other women, thousands, perhaps millions, listening to the same sound across the world, each in her own bed, her own silence, her own yearning for renewal. The thought filled her with love. She felt their presence, their hearts beating in rhythm with hers, different ages, different faces, one vibration. She wished she could tell them, "You are not alone." Every night that you think you are fading, you are actually transforming. Every wrinkle that you fear is the earth's fingerprint upon you, proof that you have lived, loved, endured. You are not breaking, you are blooming. She felt tears again, but this time they were pure devotion, gratitude to be part of something so vast and gentle. Her spirit whispered through the silence, "I am enough. I am radiant. I am renewed." The sound seemed to swell as if echoing her affirmation. Her skin tingled in response, her breath deepened. She could sense her subconscious mind accepting the truth, not as an idea, but as a new reality. Every cell began to encode this message. Youth is harmony. Harmony is love. Her face felt lighter, lifted by peace, her spine aligned effortlessly. Her energy field expanded beyond her body, forming a cocoon of shimmering calm. If someone had entered the room at that moment, they might have felt warmth in the air, a presence that was almost visible. But this transformation was not for others to see. It was for her to feel. Because true beauty, she now knew, begins where eyes cannot look. She thought of all the years she had spent looking outward for validation, chasing reflections that could never capture her spirit. Tonight, she had found something deeper, a reflection made of light. When she closed her eyes, she could see it clearly, her soul glowing with an eternal radiance untouched by age. The sound deepened slightly, shifting tone like a heartbeat moving through dimensions. She imagined it entering her cells, awakening the intelligence that had always been there. She saw, in her mind's quiet eye, strands of light weaving through her DNA, rearranging the codes of belief. Every message of limitation began to dissolve. The body, after all, listens to thought, and her thoughts now were pure love. She thought of ancient women, priestesses, healers, mothers, who understood that beauty was power, but not the kind born from comparison. It was the power to nurture, to inspire, to restore. This power was not gone. It was simply waiting for modern women to remember it, and tonight she was remembering for them all. She imagined her breath carrying ripples of this remembrance across the world, to every woman who had ever felt unseen, unheard, unworthy. She sent them light. She sent them peace. She sent them the frequency of renewal. Her body hummed in response. She felt her crown open, her heart expand, her entire being floating between worlds. It was as if heaven and earth met within her, and in that sacred meeting, she realized what true youth really was. Not smoothness of skin, but purity of spirit. Not absence of age, but presence of life. Every woman, she thought, deserves to feel this, to rest in her own radiance. To know that time is not her enemy, but her collaborator. That the night is not emptiness, but a garden where her beauty grows back in silence. She breathed that truth deeply, letting it soak into her cells. Her body felt like light wrapped in silk. Every molecule alive, alert, calm. She sensed the night drawing toward its end, but not in sadness. The dawn that awaited her was not the same as yesterday's. It would rise upon a new version of her, one born of peace. She felt her spirit smile. She had spent years searching for youth through effort, but found it only through surrender. That realization was liberation, and as she surrendered completely, she understood one final truth. The frequency of youth is simply the frequency of self-love remembered. The night was nearly over, but it no longer felt like an ending. It felt like a birth. The air in her room was still, tender, almost holy. Her breath moved slowly, each inhale deepening her connection to something vast and unseen. There was no sound now but the subtle pulse of her own being. The frequency had merged completely with her essence, becoming the quiet hum beneath her heartbeat. She didn't need to hear it anymore. She could feel it. It had become her. The same energy that moves oceans and blossoms flowers was now moving through her blood, through her thoughts, through her sleep. Every part of her body seemed to be whispering the same truth. It is safe to renew. The old patterns that had clung to her, the worry, the comparison, the smallness, were gone, washed away by the rhythm of forgiveness. Forgiveness for every harsh thought she had ever turned against herself. Forgiveness for believing she had to earn beauty. Forgiveness for the moments she forgot she was divine. Her spirit was light now, like dawn resting upon water. She could feel her consciousness expanding beyond the edges of her skin, merging with something infinite. It was as if the night had peeled back the veil that separated her from her own magic. And in that sacred clarity, she saw what was always true. Beauty is not what time gives or takes. Beauty is what the soul radiates when it remembers itself. The moment she understood this, her entire body responded. There was warmth in her hands, softness in her chest, a subtle glow rising from deep within. If she could have seen herself, she would have noticed it. Not the artificial brightness of youth, but the serene luminosity of peace. Her energy field pulsed gently, expanding outward like ripples in a still lake. The frequency that had begun as a sound had now become a light, and that light was traveling through her, into the world, into the spaces between atoms. She realized that every woman who felt unseen was connected to this same light. Every heart that longed for renewal was part of this same song. She was not an individual transformation. She was part of a collective awakening, the feminine remembering its power to heal through softness. It struck her suddenly how much strength there was in gentleness. The world had taught her that beauty required effort, control, discipline. But the truth was effortless. The more she relaxed, the more radiant she became. The more she surrendered, the more alive she felt. She thought of all the women before her who had never been told they could rest, who had carried generations of tension in their bones. She felt them sigh through her, an ancestral exhale of release. Tonight, she was healing not only herself, but the lineage of women who had forgotten how powerful stillness can be. Her body tingled with reverence. She could sense the balance returning to every cell, the harmony between her inner and outer worlds restored. It was as though she had come home, not to a place but to her own frequency. The frequency of youth, of softness, of divine femininity. And as she drifted toward sleep, she smiled because she finally understood that she was never losing beauty. She had only been learning how to see it. In her mind, she could still hear faint echoes of the sound that started it all. It felt like a lullaby made of light, ancient, comforting, eternal. She let it carry her deeper, beyond thought, beyond language, into pure feeling. She saw herself standing in a vast field of golden light, surrounded by countless women, all shining from within. There were no ages here, no comparisons, no standards, only radiance, only remembrance. They were all connected by the same pulse, the same rhythm of creation. And she understood that the true feminine youth frequency was not about looking younger, it was about becoming timeless. To be timeless was to live in harmony with the cycles of the universe, to honor every phase, maiden, mother, sage, as equally beautiful, to understand that light doesn't fade, it only transforms. She felt herself dissolving into that understanding, and for the first time, the idea of aging no longer carried fear. It felt beautiful, natural, sacred, because every passing year was another layer of wisdom polishing the soul's light. Her breath slowed further, deep and rhythmic. She could sense her cells still humming, repairing, aligning, glowing. Science might call it rest and regeneration, but she knew better. This was grace in motion. The sound had opened a door between her physical and energetic bodies, allowing healing to flow freely. Every system was recalibrating. Every emotion was being rewritten in the language of love. Her subconscious, once filled with doubt, was now a garden of light. Thoughts bloomed as affirmations. I am eternal. I am radiant. I am the harmony of nature itself. The moment she repeated those words inwardly, something in her energy field expanded so much that it felt infinite. She no longer felt contained by her body, She was everywhere. In the wind that brushed the trees outside, in the faint hum of the stars above, in the rhythm of oceans that she could feel from miles away. Everything was connected through vibration, and she was the vibration. She was life itself remembering its beauty. Her heart softened even more. The beauty she felt now was not a reflection in a mirror, but a warmth in her soul. It was the kind of beauty that never fades, because it doesn't belong to form. It belongs to truth, and truth never grows old. The night had become a sacred cocoon. The woman who would awaken with the sun was not the same one who had fallen asleep. She would rise with the softness of dawn, her energy new, her glow unmistakable. Not the glow of something applied, but of something remembered. She would walk differently, breathe differently, think differently, because when a woman remembers her frequency, the entire world feels it. She smiled once more, her lips parting gently, her breath feathering the silence. The universe seemed to exhale with her, and in that final exhale, everything aligned, body, mind, spirit, earth, stars. It was complete. She could sleep now, not to escape, but to become. Because sleep, she now knew, is not an ending. It is the sacred pause between creation and rebirth. Every night offers this chance, to return, to remember, to rise again radiant. As she drifted fully into the quiet, her last thought was not of fear, nor longing, nor age. It was of peace, pure, luminous peace, the kind that softens the face, brightens the skin, and renews the soul. The kind that reminds a woman that beauty was never lost, only waiting for her to listen. Every night is a new chance to be reborn, softer, brighter, younger. Sleep deeply and let your beauty remember who you are. If this night ritual touched your heart, imagine what the next secret will do. Subscribe and awaken your most radiant self.